Hey everyone, welcome back to The Last of Us Season 2 mini podcast episode, this is going to be episode 5/6. You're joined again by GreendotEmo and
that guy Jakey.
So we are a little bit late with the podcast. If you had known last week, we didn't post up a podcast only because that we had a couple of sicknesses and stuff going on, so we are a week behind. So instead of doing a full episode for that, because anyways the episode wasn't great anyways, we thought we'll just tag it onto this one and then we can talk more about episode 6. Diving into episode 5 real quick, again we had that little problem with Ellie not knowing how to track. She kind of felt like an NPC with Dina doing all the work. You do get to see Ellie with the guitar in the theater, and she does sing a little line from the Future Days song, which, okay, it was cool, but it didn't really mean anything because in the game we get to see that song being played out at the beginning. This time she sings a line from it, so for those who haven't seen what actually happens or have not played the game, it's not really going to mean that much to you. But, they added it in, fine, it's okay. Again, Dina went with Ellie. In the game, it doesn't really work out that way, but fine, she's pregnant, but she's on the way with Ellie, so she's putting herself into danger. And again, the world that they're in Seattle, it's just very empty. There's no infected. There's not really much threat. It's a very empty world. It just doesn't feel like The Last of Us. Now, as they're on their way to the hospital, Dina gives us this little story about the first person she ever killed. She goes on about this long story essentially, and basically I feel like the reason why they've implanted that story in there was to give a bit more of a justification to what Joel did. It's kill for kill basically, and that's one thing I think that has been a problem with this season, is that they try to over explain certain things. They don't really give much room for theorizing, imagination and things. They just kind of spoon feed you. So I'm hoping they take this kind of feedback in for the next season and try and give the audience a little bit more. They're not really feeding the game as much. They're not really feeding the people who've never played the game much. It's this weird in between, and it hasn't been working very well for this season. So let's see what they do with the third. Everything
just feels really scripted. Obviously, yes, I know it's a TV show, and we are watching the show to listen and to experience the story, but because this is a survival story, okay, just like anything that is zombie related, even though that this is not zombies, it feels a bit too scripted. Even when even when Ellie and Dina are walking around in Seattle and stuff, you just never really see any things happening in the background or anything. You don't see any infected, you don't see any human beings walking around or anything like that. It just feels like if they're going from point A to B and in between is just nothingness. And I think that's, if you're going to be replicating the video game into a TV show form, then I feel like there should be some sort of substitution and add in some replacements and such, but yeah, that's what we're dealing with at the moment.
Yeah, it is very scripted, and things turn up where they need to turn up. There's nothing, like you said, there's nothing happening in the background. You have so many different factions out there. You have the Seraphites, you have WLF, you're going to have, the Strays and people like Ellie and Dina and Joel and stuff who have been on patrols. Everyone has their own little groups and nothing is happening in the world. And I have to say, that's one thing The Walking Dead did really good. Zombies would turn up. Zombies would turn up. They'll just be walking on the street and they'll turn up. Yeah. There was very rarely any point where they would be in an area for such a long time and they didn't turn up. To one point, it actually felt like they turned up too much. But with this, nothing's happening. There's nothing happening, and there's so many different people and factions everywhere. You're telling me everyone's just indoors.
Yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't feel realistic enough. But so we have, like I said, Dina and Ellie heading to the hospital. And then they basically have to go through I don't know if it was a chemical plant or something. It was one of those and it was at night.
It's always at night.
Yeah, that's the other thing as well. Everything that's happened in this series always happens at night.
Any action related stuff is always at night. It kind of feels cheap because it feels like they don't have to focus on like the cosmetics and all the different special effects that could be shown in the show, but they hide it behind darkness. No lights, no nothing. You know, it's just I'm here watching it in the morning. My blinds are open, and I can barely see anything that's on the TV.
Yeah, it's strange that they keep doing these things at night, where in the game it was a good balance of, you know, morning, afternoon, evening. And again, it's the world that they live in now. You know, it's not like things just come out at night.
Yeah.
You know, things are living during the day. Again, like I said, Dina seems to be doing all the work. Ellie just feels like NPC, but there is a point where there is a door and Dina's like, oh, I should go check it out. And Ellie actually finally steps up and she's like, you know, maybe she should take a peek because she's the one that can't get infected. And I thought, wow, Ellie's actually said something smart.
Yeah.
So that was, you know, a small part of the Ellie that we should be getting. Again, we've said this multiple times throughout this podcast, just Ellie has not been written very well in this season.
Yeah.
And then we have the whole, you know, again, we mentioned it so many times, even now. We have the stalkers reappear, but still no Shambler.
Yeah.
Like,
no Shamblers.
The Shambler was one of the new infected that we had for part 2, and we haven't come across one. We've had one bloater again, just one, barely any clickers, and then they've mostly just been runners.
At this point, it feels like the infected are just cameos to the show.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks because obviously the world is meant to revolve around them, and we're not really seeing any of them, really. You know, they did say that we were going to get more of them this season, which technically, in terms of countings, we did get more of them because of episode 2, but is that it?
We should, again, it's just something that should be appearing all the time, you know. Whether it's infected or just people.
Yeah.
There's just no one. And then after their little incident with the stalkers, and Ellie, you know, explains to Dina how the stalkers worked because she had come across the one in the grocery store at the beginning of the season. They look like they're about to just, you know, give in. Like, Dina was blocked up. Ellie was on the floor with a bunch of them. And then someone comes and saves the day. And who is it? It's Jesse. So Jesse turns up. He says that he found the map in the theatre. So clearly he's been to the theatre. Found the map, found all the drawings and mapping out that Dina's done, so he knew where they were. And then they asked him if he came alone, and he said no, he came with Tommy. So we finally have Jesse and Tommy out in the open.
And we still don't see Tommy.
Yeah, we still haven't seen him yet. No. So apparently Jesse mentions that, you know, they split up in the city. So it was Jesse that ended up at the theatre side. Tommy's ended up somewhere else.
Yeah.
What does that mean for the rest of this season? And we've only got 2 more episodes, right? They're hiding in the forest. And they come across some scars. And they are clearly, like, torturing someone. And they've got him tied up. And he's got his little, I don't even know what you call them. It's like a knife and it's in that C shape.
Oh, ciphers? I don't
Cypher
know.
Probably? Yeah, cypher maybe.
Or hook, I don't know.
Hook. Yeah, we'll go with the hook.
Yeah.
And essentially, like, if you haven't played the game, this scene plays out in the second half of the game, but it's with Abby. They don't end up cutting her, but with this guy, they cut him, like, they went into him. But it's a similar situation, so they've shown us what the scars can do. And it was good to see this scene because we haven't really seen the scars in a very threatening light. They always seem to be, like, getting caught by someone, or we see a bunch of them dead on the floor, so they looked quite weak as a faction. But this really showed what they're capable of.
Yeah.
And then they discover Jesse, Ellie, Dina, and then they shoot an arrow at them. And in the game, it's Ellie by herself when she comes across the scars, and she gets shot with the arrow. In this, it was Dina that got shot with the arrow. It was a really good game mechanic, because it was the first time where you found out that if you get shot by an arrow, you had to press the button a few times for Ellie to actually pull it out.
Yeah.
So that was a really good, like, moment in the game. But with this one, they just got Dina to get shot in the leg, and then that was it, really. They try to escape them, and they run around, and then Ellie decides to run the opposite direction to just basically like throw the scars off and get Dina and Jesse back to the theatre. So Ellie runs off on her own to go to the hospital. So she stumbles across the hospital, and we finally get to see Nora. Good old Nora. Nora's just in the hospital, just patching up, WLF and stuff, which again, patching up WLF. Okay, where are they? Where have they been? What have they been doing?
Again, it's just one of those things where, again, it's all scripted. You never really see anyone.
Yeah.
It's always just been about Ellie and Dina and their relationship and all that kind of stuff. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So we finally get to see Nora, which was cool. And then the thing that this episode suffered from was the pacing. It felt very rushed. So we moved from Ellie finding the hospital, crawling through a hole. One of the WLF has a dog, sniffs her out, but she's already gone. Then we see Nora patching up the WLF. And then we see Ellie holding the gun towards Nora. So they've cut out everything. Like, there's no sneaking around. There's no actually trying to find Nora to see where she is. In the game, you come across this lady who's got a PS Vita. And you end up killing her because you're trying to find where Nora is. Like, Ellie just finds Nora. Yeah. It was so quick. It was just so fast. But yeah, we have the whole Nora standoff. Nora was Nora. Like, it was beautiful.
Well, yeah, she's the voice actor. So.
She is Nora. It was just so good to see Nora. Like, I've been excited to see this. Then we have a very brief, quick chase scene, which I've seen videos online where they've compared this scene to the game. The game did it so much more better. Like,
yeah, of course, yeah.
The chase scene was so much more like intense, yeah. But this one, yeah, we've got Ellie chasing her down. Nora jumps into the elevator shaft, and then it drops down to B2, which we know is where the Rat King is. So Ellie jumps through. They cut out the whole scene of them being in the... There's another scene where there's like the red lights.
Yeah.
And then there's clickers and everything, but they cut all of that out. So you basically just have Ellie now going through this area. And we finally have spores. We finally had spores. And we see like the people kind of pressed up against the wall with all of the cordyceps and such, which, again, it's something that we should have had from the beginning of the show. People live in this world. People would be like that in buildings, not just in the hospital.
Yeah.
So, it was nice to finally see it, but took a while. But yeah, we got the spores. Ellie's walking around sniffing it in because she can. And then, yeah, she comes across Nora, as I like to call it, the red scene with the red lights and the alarm going off. And Nora basically, again, over-explaining, but Nora tells Ellie that Joel killed Abby's dad. And Ellie's just like, yeah, I know. Now, did she just say that because she just wanted to intimidate Nora? Or did she really know? If she did, how did she know?
Yeah.
Because we have no recollection of this. Dina couldn't have told her because Dina was knocked out when Abby actually told Joel.
Yeah.
So where did this information come from? I don't know. But anyways, this is the moment we finally get to see a very small glimpse of actual angry Ellie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, when she was smashing her head in, that's when we finally got to see a little bit of anger.
You know what my issue is with this whole side of Ellie? I see a lot of people online saying, "Oh yeah, we're finally seeing what Ellie should be like, angry and such." She wasn't even angry. Like I feel like she was trying to be more like the game, which I don't think that's what personally I wanted. I want to see Bella Ramsey's take on Ellie's personality, her emotions and such. Just like the next episode that we're going to talk about later on, like she showcases her own side of emotion towards the situations of what Ellie goes through. And because there's a lot of things that didn't even happen in the game that now happens in the TV show, she had to make it up. I think she showcases that really, really well in the next episode. But in this episode, with her intimidating Nora, it just felt like she'd watched that scene of the game and said, okay, I need to follow this.
Yeah, you need to play it out.
Yeah. I like, she had no emotion on her face. So I was like, I don't really know. Like, it just doesn't suit Bella Ramsey. Like, I want to see Bella Ramsey angry. I don't want to see Ellie angry. I want to see Bella Ramsey angry.
Yeah.
You know, but here we have it.
Well, yeah, here we are. We got our scene with Nora. It was good. It could have been better.
Yeah, of course.
But it wasn't the worst thing about this season. But it was nice seeing Nora again.
Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing her, hopefully, in the next season as well. So after the whole Nora situation, the episode just basically ends with a flashback. Ellie's just woken up. And who appears at the door? Our savior, Joel.
Yeah, of course.
And he says the famous line, "Hey, kiddo." And he just stands there in his little, like, dad stance with his hands against his hips, which is definitely a Pedro thing, because he does it all the time, especially in, like, The Mandalorian and everything. Like, this is why he has the nickname Daddy.
No, but I suppose it's because, like, Pedro, he's, again, very relatable to Joel as a person, so it kind of just works, you know? Yeah. Yeah,
honestly, it's like having that, it felt like a breath of fresh air when you saw Joel. And the game, again, I know you're angry and everything, so you don't really think too much about Joel until they throw in a couple of flashbacks here and there to remind you why you're on this mission.
Yeah.
But with this season, after Joel's death, the episodes, they just make you, like, want Joel back. They make you miss Joel, which it shouldn't, but it has. And now seeing him, we know next week is going to be a great one. So, now we get into the good stuff. Episode 6. I know the past few episodes, it feels like we've been just complaining a lot about things. But I'm going to tell you now, you're going to enjoy episode 6. We were so happy with it. It felt like The Last of Us again. And I personally would have given it a 10 out of 10. But I'm dropping it to a 9 only because the episode was perfect. It was just put in the wrong place. I feel like we got this episode too late. This should have been an episode 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Just because of what happened. And then you would have had a bit more emotion going into the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I feel like it's too late now. And I don't know if, like, you know, when they were creating this season, they were thinking, hey, we can, you know, experiment with a couple of these episodes, change things up. And if people don't like it, it's okay. We're going to throw in this episode and bring people back. I don't know if that was their, you know, mind behind it. But that's what they've done.
I think Neil just saw the episodes and said, you know what? You guys need to fix up. Like, I'm gonna showcase to you how to make an episode, and we're gonna include it. I don't care where you put it. We're gonna be including this.
This is what's gonna happen. So, as that guy Jacob just mentioned, this episode was directed by the great Neil Druckmann, and it was also written by Neil Druckmann, Craig Mazin, and Hallie Gross, who is one of the original writers for the game. So we knew that going into this episode. So we knew this episode had to slap, essentially. So it starts off with an intro to Joel and Tommy when they were young, children, way before pandemics or anything happened. And we get to meet their dad. And we find out that their dad was really, really harsh with them. You know, they mention about him, like, hitting them and things like that. But he also has this moment at the end where he says a line about, you know, when you have your own, when you're older and you have your own, and you'll understand why I do certain things, the way I do things. And that line does actually come back around full circle later on. So we're moving from that flashback to Joel basically fixing the guitar. You could see he's got, like, a dinosaur bone that he's used for part of the guitar. He's engraved a little moth on the neck of the guitar. We also see that he brought a stash of Lego to our boy Seth. Our boy Seth is back.
Seth making a grand return.
Honestly, with Seth not being in these episodes, I feel like we miss him.
It's not The Last of Us, man.
It's not The Last of Us without Seth. But yeah, Joel brings him a stash of Lego and he's just so happy. And he's like, my grandkids are going to love this. Right, so what is it that you need? And we find out it's that Joel wants a birthday cake for Ellie's 15th birthday. Seth gets that sorted out for him, but he wrote the wrong thing on the cake. But it doesn't matter because Ellie absolutely loved it. She didn't even slice into it. She just had her face in it. And she was very happy. Like when we saw Ellie, as soon as we saw Ellie, we could the vibe was different.
Yeah.
We could see this was Ellie. And just before that as well, Tommy brings Ellie home and he's screaming down the place like, Joel, Joel, Joel. And this is where we find out that Ellie had the chemical burn on her bite, which, they say was an accident, air quotes. But Joel knows Ellie did it on purpose to try and hide it. And then she admits and she's just like, I wanted to wear short sleeves again. She was very drugged up at that point, by the way.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see that scene because we only hear about it in the game and not the full story. It was a chemical burn and that was it. So that was quite nice to see. This episode gives us things that we wanted to see from the game that were, either in Ellie's little notebook journal thing or if it's a note that you find in the world. This is what this episode does. It gives us something for the gamers. Again, it extends the game like what the first season did. And it also gives these new viewers something to kind of piece together on the relationship between Ellie and Joel before Joel's death, essentially. So this episode runs through the past 5 years that they've had in Jackson. So we start off with Ellie's 15th birthday. We also finally, guys, Joel sings Future Days.
Which should have been...
which should have
been from such
on.
A long time ago.
But we got it. And it was great. I'm going to be honest. I was just like, oh my gosh, wait, Pedro's about to sing. Okay. All right, let's get comfy here. But you know what? There was a lot of moments while he was singing, he actually sounded like Troy Baker as Joel. Which was very soothing because it just felt like Joel. That's what it gave me. It gave me Joel. It didn't give me Pedro. It didn't give me Troy. It gave me Joel. So I was very happy with that. The problem with this episode was that it's just in the wrong space.
Yeah.
But even the pacing of this episode was really good compared to the other ones. And I will say now, this episode is just the proof in the pudding, as they would say, that it's really about the writing.
It's about the writing as well as the direction, writing is one thing. A direction is someone viewing an episode from the outside, and if they don't like it, they want to change it. You know what I'm saying? That's what a good direction is. I feel like Craig, he just watched the episode and he's like, yeah, that's good. And didn't even make any changes. I
do wonder if he's actually played the full game or if he's just read parts or played parts and decided...
He just looks at it and says, you know what, that's cool, let's go get a coffee.
But the problem is, listening to the official podcast, so many times where it's been like, Craig wanted to change this, Craig wanted to do this, and then he just consulted Neil and Neil was just like, yeah, I like this take.
Yeah.
It's not... I feel like Neil needs to, for the next season anyways, I feel like he needs to have more hands-on with this.
He's busy, man.
I know he's busy,
and that's the issue with this season compared to season 1.
Yeah, he was more hands-on with season 1 than he has been with season 2, and he's kind of trusted and left it, and it hasn't worked out very well. And honestly, they're lucky that season 3 has been greenlit, and I hope it continues.
Yeah.
I hope it does, but I'll be honest with you, I will not be surprised if HBO just decides, you know what?
Nah, they're not going to chop it off because it's they're making money from this.
They're making money, but people are review bashing it right now as well.
Yeah, it was expected, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they're not helping themselves, that's for sure. But if we can get a good 4 episodes out of the 7 that have been great, then we can let it slide, right? It would have just been 3 bad episodes. So we've got 1 more episode to go. So yes, Joel singing Future Days, amazing. I enjoyed that more than Ellie singing Take On Me.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Like it just, yeah, it was a good scene. It was very good. And then we finally get to see the Natural History Museum scene, which we've seen so many different like pictures from the set and everything, but we just hadn't seen it yet. And now we finally see it. So for those who haven't played the game, this scene is shown much earlier on in the game. So it's actually when Ellie's in the theatre and then she sits down with the guitar and then she starts to sing, and then does she sing or she just plays a bit? And then it moves into that cutscene.
Yeah, she doesn't sing. You just get handed the guitar and then you can play the guitar. And then when you're done, that's when she falls asleep, and then
you see the flashback, which again was very good placement because
it was a nice break.
Yeah, that's the thing, because Joel's already dead.
It made you feel like he was having a break as well, because obviously that's why they went to the theatre.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. It's just in such a weird placement. But I understand they wanted to bring in the whole 5-year situation. Fine. But I still think if you watched episode 1, 2, and then watched 6, and then went back, then it should make sense. But Ellie is not Ellie. So it doesn't really hit that well. But anyways. So the Natural History Museum, she sees a massive dinosaur. She climbs on it. Joel's just being a dad, which is something you don't really get to see Joel be in the first season and in the first game, because he's very more protective. But now, he's in a good spot and they're just chilling and he's just being a dad. He's being what he was with Sarah. And we get to see that play out again with Ellie. I'm talking about this and I'm smiling because I could just see it in my head again, because it was such a iconic scene in the game.
Yeah, it was wholesome.
Yeah, and then you see it again now on screen and it's just like, this is so good. And like I said, Ellie is Ellie. Ellie has been written like Ellie, how she should be. The vibe is there. You just have this nice presence of her wittiness, and she doesn't take anything for granted, and she would just say what's on her mind. So yeah, she climbs on top of the massive dinosaur. She sees the Natural History Museum. She's like, there's a museum. And, and Joel's just like, well, yeah, that's where we're going. Come on. And then we get to the museum and we get to go to the space section, which is everything that Ellie is about. She's always wanted to go to space. And they see the little pod, and he tells her like, hey, this has been to space and it's been back. And Ellie's face is just like, oh my gosh. And he's like, get in, you can get in. And then she's trying to get in and open it up, and then he's like, wait, hold on, you're gonna need a helmet. And he picks up a rock and gives it to her, and he's just like, pick one. Which in the game you get to do. You get to try on all the different helmets, and then you get to pick the one that you want, right? So she picks the helmet, and just seeing her put the helmet on, the joy in her face. Like Bella Ramsey, like she just looks so cute. Like you just wanted to give her a hug. And then, they get inside the pod, and then, Joel hands her a cassette, and she's just like, what's this? And he's like, just listen to it. It's going to be worth it. And, she plugs it in. And she listens, and it's the original recording of when they went to space and come back down. And the whole like lift off, the countdown and everything. And he tells her to close her eyes and just be in that moment. And I remember the first time I played that, I was just in tears because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so like, you don't get any of this in the first game.
Yeah.
Other than like, the only time you did get something similar was the giraffe scene. But this was a bit more powerful because of, it's the audio, and then, it's just him being in the moment with her, and he can't hear anything, but he's just seeing.
But they weren't worrying about anything.
And that as well.
There was a time when they were a bit more settled. Yeah,
exactly. But so he lets that play out. You get to see Ellie just be in that moment. And just how happy she is. That's the main thing. After everything that's happened, it's about how happy she is. And then as they leave, so in the game, there is a point where she finds the Firefly logo on the wall, and she kind of like questions it, and it says like, when you're lost in darkness, look for the light. And she kind of like, you can tell she's kind of reminiscing back to what happened at the hospital. And they've done it in a... They brought that scene back here, but not with the Firefly logo. As they're leaving, she kind of stops in the woods. And Joel's just like, is everything okay? And she's just like, yeah. And then she carries on walking. The camera pans over and we see that there's some fireflies flying.
Yeah.
And you know exactly what she's thinking. And it's such a realistic thing as well, you know, when you have like a really nice moment about something and then that one little thing will pop up to just remind you that everything is actually not okay. So you can tell that she's still thinking about that moment. It's still in the back of her head. She knows Joel lied to her.
Yeah.
But they haven't had the discussion yet. So we move from the 15th birthday quickly over to the 17th birthday. And this like episode and this scene kind of reminded me of the Frank and Bill episode.
Oh, yeah.
Because we get to see the breakdown of their relationship. And that's exactly what we get to see here. We see the breakdown of the relationship between Ellie and Joel. And this was that moment. Ellie's 17th birthday. She's getting older. Joel was basically asking Gail what the whole like moth thing meant. And he was like, oh, is it about like rebirth, being new, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, no, that's a butterfly. With a moth, it's about death. So Joel's just kind of like, oh. And then, so he gets home and then he hears some giggling because he was bringing up a birthday cake for Ellie. And he hears giggling and he's just like, wait, what's going on? Who's this? What? And he bursts through Ellie's door just like any parent would. And he finds Ellie with another girl, shirts off, on the bed, and they're quickly like panicking, blah, blah, blah. And Joel starts shouting at her and being like, what's going on, etc., etc. And then he finds out that Ellie's got a tattoo on her arm over the chemical burn. Now, this is actually something, I don't remember if this particular scene itself was in Ellie's journal, but in Ellie's journal in the game, you do find out that she got her tattoo done by a lady called Kat. And she was basically dating her for a bit. And that's who that girl was. That was Kat. And then looking back at the first episode, when they were at the grocery store with Ellie and Dina, and then there was a lady who was in charge of the patrol because Jesse put her in charge. That same lady is Kat, which in the game, she's still in the so in the lost episodes, lost gameplay.
Yeah.
Kat is there in Jackson, and they sit down, and you can tell there's conversation about like tattoo and stuff. So Kat is still there, but you can tell that they don't really have a good relationship anymore. So we don't know what happened, but we get to see Kat, and we learn more about the tattoo, which is cool because the tattoo is such a symbolic thing for season 2. Even myself, I have one. So then we move into Ellie's 19th birthday, which is basically near present day because Ellie is 19 at the moment, right? So for Ellie's 19th birthday, before we move to the 19th birthday, so Ellie and Joel have a massive argument and stuff, and then Ellie starts moving things out because she's like, I'm moving into the garage, blah, blah, blah. And Joel's just like, calm down. You can tell that he takes himself back a bit because she's 17. His daughter wasn't 17. So this is new for Joel now.
Yeah.
You know, this is new territory. And I feel like he realizes, hold on a second, I do need to give her some space. She is getting older. Let me try and make things better. So he tells her like, look, we'll figure something out. I understand. We'll figure out in the morning. Let's not rush into things right now. So yeah, this whole relationship at that point in their life, it's so new to both of them.
Yeah.
So, you know, he was even like shouting at her and saying, oh, you're going through all the teenage stages now. Like, you know, you're getting a tattoo, you know, you're having sex and you're experimenting and you're taking drugs. And she's just like, I'm not experimenting. So that was also the moment where he learns about her sexuality at that point, I suppose, as well. So it's a very key moment, and I'm glad they showed it.
Yeah.
Because, again, it really gives you an insight to their relationship. So, yeah, we move into Ellie's 19th birthday. this is where, for her present, he's like, you can now go out on a patrol. And she's getting very excited. She's like, all right, let's go. And he's like, get your gun. You're going to need your gun. So she leaves with the rifle. And at one point, we actually see her knife, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that on the table, yeah. But where is it now?
Where is it now?
But do you see what I'm trying to say, though, right? The one man that created the show, the game, and he's bringing everything all together into one episode, doesn't feel rushed, doesn't feel like if it's padded out or anything. Like, it just feels more natural, you know? It actually feels like I'm watching an adaptation of the game itself. Yeah. Don't know what the other episodes was.
I don't know either. And this episode is not like it's fully pulled from the game. Yeah. This is something new for everyone.
Yeah, it's mostly new, yeah.
And he still was able to make it into something that we can actually relate to. Yeah. Man, it just... I'm so happy with this episode. Like, I could go on forever. So, yeah, they go on their patrol. And then, they hear some noises. They hear, it sounds like there's maybe some runners and stuff nearby. And then they find Eugene, who we've been talking about for this whole season. Eugene. So now we're going to find out exactly what happened between Joel and Eugene. Because Gail has this hatred towards Joel, which he mentions in this first episode. Yeah. That Joel killed Eugene. And what basically happened was that Eugene got bit. Yeah. Eugene got bit. Joel was ready to just end it there and then. Because that's the rules. That's the rules of Jackson. You end it. And then Ellie gets Eugene to do the little test that Marlene did with Ellie when she was bit. And they found her that and all that stuff. Yeah. Where it was the counting. So if you're not able to get to 10, that means your time's up. Like, you are changing. But if you can count to 10, you've still got a bit of time.
Where is all that readiness in the last episodes? Like, bear in mind, this is a younger Ellie, right? Mm-hmm. She has all these skills. Mm-hmm. And even when she is with Joel, she's still very smart.
Yeah, there was that point when they were in the forest and he was like, do you know what to do now? She was like, yeah, I've got your back, you've got mine. And they both got their backs turned to each other. And I'm like... Where is this in the season?
But the last episode... Anyways, yeah. Let's just...
I can see it. That guy's shaking his face right now. If you can see his face.
I just don't want to sound like, I'm complaining all the time. It's just...
Oh, my God. I know, we've complained so much. But when you watch this episode, you'll understand why we've been complaining. Yeah. Like, seriously. But yeah, Ellie is smart. Ellie knows what she's doing. So yeah, she gets Eugene to do the countdown, and I think it's like counting with the fingers, and he does it. So Eugene is basically asking, look, don't kill me now. I still have some time. It's fresh. Take me back to Jackson so I can see Gail, so I can talk to her, and then end it. And Joel's just like, no, we can't do that. Joel is just like so forward. He's like, this is not the rules. We can't do it. And Ellie's now arguing with Joel, saying, he's got time, we can do it. And Eugene is just like, I need to see Gail, I've got things to sort out, blah, blah, blah. So then Joel tells Ellie to go and get the horses and meet him down at the river bit or whatever. And Ellie's just like, you promise? And Joel's just like, yeah. And you can see that Joel has that look on his face again, where it's like, hell no. This guy is going. So he leads Eugene down to the river bit. And then he's basically just telling Eugene, look, your time's up, mate. And Eugene is begging for his life. And then Joel... it was a very sad scene. Joel tells Eugene... Like, Eugene's like, I need to see Gail again. I need to see her face. And Joel's just like, if you really love someone...
You'll always see their face.
You will always see their face. Like, that line... Like, even now, my eyes were watering. Because all I could think of was Sarah. And then the camera just stays on Eugene for a while. And you can see him searching for Gail's face. And then he finally says, I see her.
Even that directory, man. You can tell it's Neil, man.
I know.
you can tell it's Neil, man.
It's like when you can tell when it's the Russo brothers when they do Marvel, right? Yeah. It was... We only got that in episode 1 and 2. That's what I mean.
Especially with like the therapy scene in episode 1 and stuff, like those long shots of seeing the character's emotion on the screen You don't get that in episode 3, 4,
four,
and 5.
They've just been rushed.
It's just, yeah.
This scene was so, like, we don't know Eugene. We don't really know that much about him, but...
I mean, still feel for him.
We felt it, man. We really felt it. And, yeah, you can see, like, the peace that comes to his face when he's like, I can see her. And then the camera just pans away. You don't see Joel shooting, but what you do... And you don't hear it either. What you do see is you see the birds flutter out of the bushes. So you know it's done. It was such an emotional scene. Like, I know we've been talking about Eugene for such a long time. This was worth it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic episode.
And then Ellie comes down with the horses and she sees that Joel's killed him. So they wrap up his body, take it back to Jackson. And then there's a scene outside where, you know, well, just before that, Joel tells Ellie, look, we're just going to tell them he was bit.
Yeah.
And he took his life. They don't need to know anything else. You can see Ellie is just like... Ellie's fuming.
Yeah.
Like, their journey back to Jackson was silent. Okay? So when they see Tommy and they see Gail, Joel does all the talking. He's just like, you know, he was bit before we got there. And he took his own life. You know, that's what happened.
That's literally it.
Yeah, sorry. You know. And Gail is just distraught. You know, Tommy's just like, you know. Ellie is just standing there. And you can, again, when let me tell you something, Ellie has been...
She was more... This is the emotion that I wanted.
We need to see.
No, but this is the emotion I wanted in front of Nora.
Yeah.
But that emotion, compared to this emotion, different. This Ellie that we just saw a while ago was sadness, anger, and everything above.
Yeah.
The one that we saw in front of Nora was, I watched that cutscene yesterday, and let me just do it here.
Yeah. Honestly, the way Ellie was, if you saw Ellie's face, you knew there was build-up. It was coming. You knew something was about to happen. And she did something we didn't expect from Ellie. She just went, Joel's lying. Joel shot him in the face.
Damn.
Or in the head. That was it. He wanted to come back to Jackson to see you, and Joel shot him in the head. And the
turning point.
The vengeance that came out of her mouth when she was saying it. It was just like, huh?
Damn.
What? Even Joel was shocked, and he was like, no, girl, no.
I don't think Pedro expected that.
Listen.
Pedro was like, Bella, what the fuck? This is not what you meant to say. But then Neil was like, no. Continue. Continue.
Honestly.
Pedro, shut up right there. You better stay there. Bella, continue.
It was shocking. I did not expect it. I honestly thought that it was going to build up, and then when Joel left, Ellie would go and tell Gail. Yeah. Like, I knew she was going to tell her, but I thought she would have done it behind Joel. No. She did it in front of him. And she was just like, you lied. You had the same look on your face.
Damn, oh. I felt weird.
That's what I'm saying. It was so shocking.
I felt weird.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And again, this is not something we see in the game.
See, this is the type of thing where I'm like, damn, I wish this was in the game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I haven't felt like this since. Well, the last scene I wanted in the game was the Jackson scene. That would have been nice, but I understand why they didn't include it, because the segment of you playing as Ellie, going towards Joel, it's a bit too intense. So you can't go from full on action to then intense. It kills the vibe, you know. So I get it. It was
a hard scene.
Yeah, man.
It was great. Like I'm telling you. Ellie has been written terribly this season.
Yeah.
If you want to see what Ellie should be, this is the episode.
Yeah.
This is it. So we move from that back to the New Year's Eve party, which again is the scene that we should get realistically in the second half of the game, which would be the second part of the next season. But they've put it here, which is fine. I feel like they're trying to gather all of Ellie into one season, so it's okay. It works with this episode. So we see Joel and Maria at the New Year's Eve party, and they're having a really nice discussion, actually, as we saw everything that happened before the party, like with Joel, with Gail, and, you know, with Tommy and Maria, like previously in the first episode. And Maria's just basically telling Joel, look, even though you're the grumpy uncle, you are family, you know, and it's nice having you here. If there's anything we can do, we're here to help. You know, it was just that kind of reassurance. And it was just such a good, like, moment. It was a nice point because we know that Maria hasn't really gotten on that well with Joel.
Yeah.
You know, from the beginning, you know, there's always been that little, I'm not sure about you on both ends. And this was that kind of like confirmation to be like, you know what? You're all right. You're all right. And then we see the Seth scene play out again, but from a different angle.
They definitely reshot that. Neil was like, listen, guys, we need to get that scene back, man. Like, we need to reshoot that, get it from a different angle.
Honestly, we got to see Seth get pushed again. But the camera followed him this time. The camera followed him this time. So yeah, we get to see that little moment again. And then it skips to the porch scene where originally we saw Ellie just walk off. Which we questioned, oh my gosh, did she not speak to Joel? What's happening? But she actually comes back. She goes on the porch. And then, tell you what, this scene killed me.
Bear in mind, this scene was literally at the end of the game.
Yeah, it literally is. Like, but this absolutely, like, demolished me. To be fair, I think this was more sad than actually seeing Joel get killed.
I think it's only because, like, you expected it, that's why. You know, like...
Maybe, but...
And we've played the game, like, what, 4 times?
I know, but I still cried.
I know, but, like, it's just... I don't know, for me, it's not as shocking anymore. Like, it's sad, obviously.
No, that's what I mean, it wasn't
But, like,
shocking.
I'm not crying over it or anything.
It was just sad.
But
and
this moment, obviously we didn't expect it.
That's the thing,
and the performances, those long shots on the faces...
Listen, everything about this episode was
you see the tears develop.
Yeah.
You see their face change from sad to like distraught, and then you know it's just it's
see
good.
all the emotions come through in that one shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have that conversation on the porch of like, you know, what happened at the party. Ellie's like, you know, I had Seth, blah blah blah. But then because of everything that's just happened with Eugene. And the thing that happened with Eugene was 9 months before this party, by the way. Yeah. So for 9 months, Ellie has been stewing. She has been stewing like crazy.
Yeah, but so she's been stewing over a space of 9 months, and she's still angry.
But 3 months,
and all of a sudden she's happy that Joel's gone,
and that Dina's having a baby.
Like, come on, man. You see
the difference.
That stuff don't make sense,
exactly,
man.
Exactly, you see the difference.
Come on.
But yeah,
if anything, she just got even worse over time.
That's what I mean. It just didn't make sense.
Anyways.
But yeah, Ellie's been stewing for 9 months. And yeah, this is where she basically confronts Joel. And she said to him, like, you had that same look on your face the day you told me that there was no other... there was loads of immune people at the hospital, blah, blah, blah. And she said, when you told me, you had that same look on your face. And you can see Joel's face is just like,
damn,
I've been made. This is it. This is the day he's been dreading. And Ellie basically confronts Joel and is just like, you need to tell me now, otherwise we're done. And we get this conversation in the game, but in a different setting. So they've basically combined the two conversations, because she does have a conversation with Joel on the porch in the game near the end of the game, but the conversation about what happened with the Fireflies, that happens at a different time. So they combined the two, which worked because it was like everything, like I said, the 9 months, everything has just been stewing together, and it's now it's blown up. So Ellie's just like, you need to tell me now, otherwise we're done. Like, this is it. And then she starts to question Joel. And she's just like, were there any other immune people? And Joel, you can see the tears just rolling down Joel's face. And he doesn't even say anything. He just nods. No. And she asks, like, you know, did you kill Marlene just like that? And he's just like, yeah. And she asks another question, and you can just see it
just keeps boiling and
boiling.
Joel's
face. Yeah, Joel's face was just breaking apart. And Ellie was breaking apart because she's finally getting the answers that she wanted. But at the same time, it's like, crap, this is for real. And she starts to shout at him and says, like, you know, I was supposed to die. That was my purpose. And then Joel decides to just kind of break that silence and is just like, listen, you are not supposed to die, okay? She asked them, like, were they going to make a cure? And he's just like, yeah. But the thing is, we are not 100% sure. We will never be 100% sure.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, there's one thing about killing someone, but, like, are you killing them for the right reasons?
Exactly. We don't know if this cure would have worked.
Exactly.
And if it did, would it have been for the good? That was always the theory.
Would it even cure America?
Exactly. What about the rest of... Like, we don't know. So, yeah, he finally breaks his silence and he basically says, like, you know... He brings back the line that was in the game that I was hoping they would make sure he would say. And the line is basically him talking about if he had to do it all again, he would. And that line is so... like, it sticks with you in the game. Because, like I said, this scene, you see it later on near the end of the game. And you realize, like, it doesn't matter if it happens or if it happens then or if it happens at another time. He would still do the same thing. He was just... in this, he's like, you know, he knows he knows that she's going to turn away from him and that's it. But he would still do it again. And then the part that got me, that made me start to just, like, drench in tears, was something he said that he doesn't say in the game. And he said, it's because I love you. Can you imagine? I was like, what? What? He actually said that he loves Ellie? And it was just that. Honestly, Pedro, let me tell you again. I said this from the first 2 episodes, and I'm going to say it again. This guy needs to win some awards for this. You know when some people are not sure if someone should have played a character?
Yeah.
Pedro was the right choice for Joel. No,
you see what the difference is though, like between like Pedro Pascal and everyone else in the show. When he's in the show, I feel like everyone is like keeping their back straight and be like, okay guys, we need to be on our top acting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then as soon as he's gone, they're like, all right guys, we can, you know, do whatever we want, you know. It's
slacking off.
Yeah, it's like that manager that walks into the room. You know, as soon as they come in, you have to wipe the tables, you know. You have to make sure everything's straight. But then as soon as they leave the room, they're like, all right guys, we can just chill, you know, relax. We're good. You know? And you know, like this whole episode, you can see that everyone was on their top. You know what I'm saying? They were all on their top game.
Because Neil directed it. Cough, cough.
But yeah, of course, you know. But it's just like Pedro is like the.
He's the front runner.
He's the front runner of the show, you know.
And it should be Ellie.
It should technically be Ellie because
but
obviously,
not.
But the thing is though, right? When Pedro obviously leaves the show, his aura should have been moved on to Ellie, because that's exactly what the game did.
Yes.
You know, as soon as Joel dies and you stop using him and such, and you move to Ellie, Ellie becomes her own new character, which then you bond with. That doesn't happen in the show.
No. She
either just continues being the Ellie that we somehow was experiencing in season 2, or she became worse. And I don't know, man. It's just they're splitting the aura between Dina, Ellie, and who else?
Yeah, I know, but I what you're saying is exactly right. The game shifts your perspective over to Ellie, and that's why I said when you're playing the game, you don't miss Joel, but they give you reminders of why you're doing what you're doing. Yeah. And with this season, they haven't done that. They make you miss Joel, so when he comes back, it's on point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole like I would do it again because I love you. You see it and you're just like, bloody hell. You know, it was like a standing ovation moment because, you know, he's there crying, she's crying, and she's just like, no.
Yeah, like, it was just a whole moody section, which that's what The Last of Us 2 is all about though, man.
Exactly.
It's not meant to be bright and colourful and vibrant.
Like what it's been.
It's meant to be an absolute emotional wreckage.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
I always said when I played The Last
You're not
of
meant
Us,
to feel good about watching the show. You're not meant to feel comfortable.
No.
In every single corner, you should feel awkward. You should feel, uptight.
Yeah.
But
The Last of Us Part 2 is going to be the most depressing game you've ever played.
yeah.
It makes you feel every single emotion on the planet that you never thought you could even feel. And that's what I love about it, because then I don't have to feel these emotions in real life.
Yeah, exactly. But it also brings emotion to life as well. Like emotions that you probably wouldn't expect in a piece of media, because games and movies are all glorified by having a perfect life and having perfect situations, and even if you have arguments, it all just rolls over.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not the case with The Last of Us 2. You're getting reality.
Yeah.
You're getting a reality burst.
And it just shows you that things always come back full circle.
You have an argument, and that argument is going to last for days.
But then you make up later on.
But then you make up later on. But you remember
you remember it.
You remember those situations. Yeah.
Yeah, this episode brought the vibe of The Last of Us back. So after that moment, which made sense, because then when they go out for the patrol, like afterwards, when Ellie's with Jesse and he's just like, oh, okay. And she's like, oh, where's Joel? I'm going out on patrol with Joel. And Jesse's like, Joel's already gone. That makes sense now because of the relationship with Joel and Ellie. And when she was telling Jesse, like, oh, we have an understanding.
Yeah.
Because of that moment, So again, it comes back full circle. But what a scene. That was honestly... That... And the Eugene scene, complete, perfection. So after that, anyways, we come back to present day. And we just see Ellie in the rain with her hood up. You can see there's emotion on her face. Because she's been remembering all this stuff on her way back to the theatre. And they've actually shown the theatre in a way that looks dark. The lightning flashes and it flashes for you to see it's the theatre. You feel like, now is when you feel like something's going on with this theatre. You know how before I said when they showed the theatre, they just showed it, they just stumbled upon it and that was it. Whereas in the game, you kind of see the ladder and you're like, this, you feel like this is going to be relevant. When you see the theatre in the season, it doesn't feel like it's going to be relevant. That scene right there made it feel relevant. So now the question is, I hope they don't cut anything out. Neil is involved in the next episode, so I'm hoping it's going to be the penultimate finale, Realistically, what we need to see is Ellie head to the aquarium, because that's where she thinks Abby is. And she's going to find Owen. She's going to find pregnant Mel. Will she kill the dog? I don't know. But that is where she's supposed to find them and kill them. And then make her way back to the theatre.
Yeah. And
then what happens is obviously Abby had gone to the aquarium, so we would see that in the next season. You
know what's crazy though, right?
What?
When you think about it now, at this moment, Manny's dead. Well, he's meant to be dead.
Well, that's the thing. Tommy has been gone, right? Are we gonna see that in the next season?
You see, I feel like we need a Tommy episode.
That's what I'm saying.
It should start with a Tommy episode.
I'm hoping that the next season... Well, I don't think it will start with it, but this...
I think it would...
No, this... Because remember, he's in Jackson. If it lines up with Abby, he's in Jackson. So this time, next season, I'm really hoping we do get that sniper scene. Because they've casted, a mid-tier actor to play Manny. He's not a nobody. So he needs to have some sort of... he needs a scene, right? And that's his scene. His scene is with Tommy with the sniping. So I don't know how it's going to play out, because it's definitely going to play out different to the game, because there's certain people involved that's not been involved now. Yeah. But he's gone to the city. That's what Jesse said.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that Tommy comes across Manny, because it's Tommy is the one who kills Manny. There's no other... I really hope they don't change that. So I'm hoping, like you said, we get a Tommy episode.
I definitely think they're going to change the aquarium. If I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think we're going to see the aquarium.
We have to, though.
I don't think
it's a main area.
We're not going to see it. This whole Owen and... What's her name?
But it has to happen. Otherwise, why would Abby be going to the theatre?
I think they're going to change that. they're gonna change this.
No.
And mostly only because of Nora, bro. Oh, not Nora. Flipping Dina. Yeah.
But why? Dina's back at the theatre now. Now everyone is where they should be. At this moment in time, assuming Tommy's at the theatre now with Jesse.
No, they're not. Because the aquarium hasn't even happened yet.
Because it's gonna happen next.
Well, maybe.
Remember, when you're playing the game, Ellie goes and comes from the theatre a few times.
No, but hear me out though, right? So you're telling me, yeah, Ellie's gonna go back. Well, she's in the theatre now, yeah? She's gonna open the door and Abby's there.
No! She's gonna go back there. They're probably gonna hear on the radio or something that she's at the aquarium. Because remember, Abby went back to the aquarium with Lev. Remember?
Yeah.
So she went back with Lev and his sister to fix her up because of her arm. So that's why she's going to hear that Abby's at the aquarium. So she's going to go.
Yeah.
I hope she goes by herself and doesn't take Jessie or anyone like that.
She's taking Jessie.
She goes to the aquarium and then she's going to kill him. And then as she's leaving, Abby's probably going to arrive. And then Abby realizes what happens, finds the map or finds some sort of evidence that it was Ellie. And then as Ellie's going back to the theatre, Abby is now going to the theatre. So as soon as Ellie gets back to the theatre, they probably have like, I don't know, maybe half a day or a few hours, whatever.
Yeah.
And then Abby shows up. And that's how next week should end. That's how it should end. Yeah. Because that's how the game ends.
I knew this season was going to end with Ellie's story, like...
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It had to be Ellie's story first, and then we'll see the same timeline, but with Abby's story.
Yeah.
The question is, for next season, it either needs to be longer, because they need to have, like, either 1 or 2 episodes.
It needs to be 10 flipping episodes.
Yeah, because it needs an episode with Ellie and Dina doing their thing, Tommy coming back. And it also needs to have the Santa. Is it Santa? Not Santa Barbara.
Yeah,
Santa Fe.
Santa Barbara, isn't it?
Is it Santa Barbara?
Yeah.
Santa Barbara. What,
yeah, but remember that's where they wanted to go.
Yeah, because that's where the Fireflies were. That Abby was going. So they need that extra episode, or they're gonna do another season. A season 4, which focuses on the aftermath.
Well, I was thinking there's gonna be a season 4.
For that bit.
But I reckon it's just going to be like...
A few episodes.
Like, no, just like 3 solid...
long episodes.
Yeah, like...
Yeah. Like what they did with Prison Break.
Yeah, just 3... Boom, you know?
Like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Kind of like a film. But yeah.
That's just us dreaming though. You know that ain't going to happen, man.
I mean, I'm actually hoping they do a season 4 and that's what season 4 is. Because I feel like if they add that into season 3... season 3, it will be too rushed. Which I know they can do that, but...
Or what they might do, right, is to do another season, but the last episode will be like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
To, like, really wrap up everything.
Yeah.
Because remember now, obviously that's going to consist of Santa Barbara, when Abby and Lev finally decides to have, like, a happy life, and Lev has, like, the longer hair and the shirt and everything.
When Tommy comes to see... When Tommy comes to see Ellie...
When Tommy comes to see Ellie having a happy life in the fields.
Dina, yeah.
And then the big fight between Ellie and Abby.
When they go, yeah.
And they're probably going to extend that scene as well, because, like, in the game, you don't really see Abby get hung up or anything.
No,
like,
that's what I'm saying.
We
don't see her in the prison or anything, and they could show that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that could be extended, because... Like, the whole Santa Barbara, again, is very gameplay heavy, so they're not really going to show... Well,
but then there's also
I hope they do, because I want to see some action.
But that's the thing. There's a lot that they cut out from Abby's story, because you end up playing... You play as Abby, and then she gets caught, and you don't see her again. And then you play as Ellie.
And then, of course, we have the very ending.
Yeah.
Which is,
exactly. So, that's what I'm saying. I personally would make that a season 4.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of content there that they can expand on.
Yeah.
And even like characters that, like, you know, when the guys hung up Ellie, when they caught, like, who
saying,
are they? They appeared like they were.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And we need to see more of the Seraphites as well.
Again, they can add more
We need to see my man,
stuff.
my black man. What's his name?
Isaac.
We're gonna see more of Isaac. There's a lot, but Let's see, man.
Yeah,
Let's see.
But yeah, we've got one more episode, guys. One more episode. And I'm actually quite excited now. I'm back.
I reckon it's going to be a short episode, man.
Oh, don't say that.
They did that with season 1. That affects me.
I know.
It was like one of the shortest one. I was like, really?
And they rushed it.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Like, that's the difference with playing the game and watching on, like, the series. Because there's some things that... Not because of the gameplay that you can walk around and stuff, but some things that you just need a bit more time to breathe. And they don't give enough breathing space sometimes. They don't give you enough time to absorb what's about to happen.
Yeah.
But they just kind of throw it in your face. But yeah, one more episode next week. Hopefully we should be back on point for Monday again. We'll see how long this episode is. This one has been a bit lengthy because we've had to tag the 2 episodes together. But yeah, we were very, very happy with this.
Fantastic episode. One of the best, if not the best.
Oh yeah, IGN gave it 8. I like I said, I'd give it a 9. I just dropped 1 point because I think it's been put in the wrong place. But predicted that Neil would bring us back, and he has. So
I have no doubt, man.
Well done, well done. Well, if you did like this video, please hit, if you did like this podcast, hit the like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, GreendotEmo.
And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, That Guy Jakey Gaming.
Yes, he's just posted up some videos of Doom.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in the new Doom game, go check that out. And I know he's got a bunch of cool stuff coming up soon, especially next month. Yeah. If you're a Nintendo fan.
Gonna be all over that. Gonna be covering the Nintendo Switch 2 full coverage. I'm going to be doing some comparison videos between the Steam Deck and the Nintendo Switch 2. Yeah, I'm just going to go full on hands-on, really. So, yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, he's smiling while he's saying that as well. Well, thank you all for listening in, and we'll see you all next week for the final episode of The Last of Us Season 2 mini podcast.